Okay, so fourth period is back from lunch, and we will continue talking about the budget. So next up, let's talk about a thing that's on every GOPO exam that's ever existed, and that is the two types of government spending. The first is mandatory. Hopefully you know that mandatory means you have to do it, it's required. And the word that mandatory comes from is the word mandate, which is not just two bros going out to get some pizza, but instead it means you have to do it. So mandatory. The other kind is discretionary. And discretionary spending is not mandatory. It's spending at the government's discretion. So if I leave something up to my discretion, it's my call, right? If I say, okay, students, what we do on Thursday is up to your discretion, then you would all probably say, oh, we get to sleep. My mask is crooked. There we go. I kind of look like a ninja, don't you think? So mandatory, you got to. Discretionary, you don't got to. So mandatory, what's that other word for mandatory? Entitlement. Okay, entitlement spending. Okay, so if we think of somebody who's entitled, we're like, oh, they think they deserve it, right? They think they're entitled to something, and we can kind of use that for what? Come on, mask. Everything's backwards in my thing too, so that makes it worse. Cool. Yeah. Is it crooked still? Half of this lecture is me adjusting my mask. Is it straight? Thank you. All right, fourth period is weighed in. The mask is straight. So you think of entitlement, you think, oh, they deserve it. And that's exactly what entitlement means here, is like these people deserve this money. They are entitled to it because of their situation. So, for example, Social Security is people paid into Social Security for so long, so therefore they deserve to get their money back. Medicare, Medicaid, these are also government programs that are set up for people who can't feed themselves, who can't take care of their medical spending. And they're entitled to that because they qualify for it, you know. We'll talk a ton about Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security as we get further into the game. But Medicare is basically health care for people who are over 65. And Medicaid is health care for people who are under 65 but are disabled. And then government unemployment is you lost your job and the government's going to help you out until you find a job. Now, why are people entitled to all this stuff? Well, one is they can't help themselves in this situation. They don't have that opportunity. But the second thing, still adjusting the mask. The second reason is they pay their friggin' taxes, right? And I pay my taxes, so I help my fellow man. But also, if I need help, I should get some of it. When it comes to mandatory spending, that makes up about 2/3 of the budget, 60%, golly, we're going to have to talk about the national debt too. So the national debt at this moment is dun, 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 dun. Are you excited? I know I am. The national debt. Anybody want to guess what the national debt is? Huh? You said 1 trillion. You say 4 trillion more. It's more than 4 trillion. Less than 40 trillion. 35, a little bit less. 34 less. 33 less. 31, 32 less. Less. More. Less. 27. $27 trillion. Let me start again. 27 trillion, 786 billion, 893 million, 500,000, and yeah. It's right here. I got it on the screen. The freshman can back me up, son. So remember this. A million is 1,000,000, right? A billion is 1,000 million, and a trillion is 1,000 billion. And we got 27 of them. What's up? All right. You AP World people, go back to whatever you're learning about. I'm sure it's probably murder. Speaking of financial murder, we are $27 trillion in debt. And so we have a deficit. Every year we spend more money than we take in. So some people think the deficit should be mandatory. So right now we're at about $1 trillion for this year, 27 trillion altogether. And then we have discretionary spending. This is money that it's up to Congress for how do they divide it up. And when it comes to discretionary spending, the big thing on here is military. And so we're going to look at some pie charts about that. Hopefully I can make these a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. Apparently I can't make pictures bigger. All right. So anywho, this is 2016. This is a few years old, but it stays about the same. This is the discretionary spending budget. Okay. And you can see that out of $1.15 trillion, 54% of it goes to the military. Now, should we spend that much on the military or should we not? Well, it kind of depends on how you view the military and kind of where we stand in the world. Some people would say we need to take care of our citizens and keep them safe, and that is reasonable. Other people would say that's kind of ridiculous when you look at we only spend $74 billion on education. So that's 6% on education, 3% on science. Food and agriculture gets 1%, and that's kind of crazy because people eat food. Okay, so this is the entire budget spending. So this is not just discretionary, but it's mandatory. We take everything into consideration. And here you can see that we spend most of our budget on healthcare. So that's going to be Medicare and Medicaid, and also programs that help poor people with healthcare and Social Security. Now, the thing that sucks about Social Security is Social Security should be taken care of because the worker and the boss is supposed to be paying this in throughout their employment, and then they're just taking it back. But because the system is kind of haywire, the government still has to throw in a whole lot of money. Homeland Security gets 16%. Overall, we're giving education 3%, science 1%, veterans 4%, which really sucks because we should take care of our veterans. And so here is mandatory spending. All right. We have 49 plus 38. That would be 89. 87 or some kind of math. Almost 90% of our mandatory spending goes to Medicare and Social Security. And again, not a lot more. And then the last pie chart will look at a way that some people are using data and lying about data or not being completely honest about it, and using that to prove a point that probably they could prove by being honest. And so here we go, and this is an anti-Republican thing. This is not me, Mr. Brock, is anti-Republican. Okay, I am fair to both sides. But so what they're hang on, interruption. We'll give them back to you. Also, when we change classes, they're metal. They're on a ring. I know those people. Okay, very quickly, if you'll notice, it says this is a chart of federal spending, but it is discretionary spending. It is not overall federal spending. So we know that overall federal spending, the military only takes up. About 16%, but this is saying that they take 57% of all of it. And it is true that food stamps only makes up a part of the orange sliver, but here we see people using data to make you feel bad. So with that said, we'll take a pause, and I will come back to you very soon. Okay, it looks like we are back. Some history really quick on the budget is that there's been an increase in mandatory spending, and that's led to a decrease in discretionary spending. And since the 50s, that has a lot to do with welfare programs and the like, entitlement programs. And so, very quickly, budget drama breaks down to conservatives and liberals, as it usually does. And here, of course, this isn't everybody, but for the most part, conservatives say, we don't need to raise taxes. We're already taxed too much. And they also have this, a lot of them have an idea of we're spending too much on these social programs anyway. Kind of the idea of if someone's receiving a government check, they should probably be working. On the other hand, liberals say that we should invest more in social programs, food stamps, welfare, Head Start, Medicare, Medicaid, and liberals say the way we should do that is to raise taxes. The disconnect here is raise taxes on whom? For conservatives across the board, they do not like the idea of raising taxes. But with liberals, it really has a slant of let's raise taxes on the rich, let's raise taxes on corporations. Okay. And then we're going to move on to talk about some reasons Congress does what they do. Definitely know this word partisanship. Partisanship is party based. So It is, I'm going to do what my party says and my party's ideology says more than most everything else. And we can see that right now with the way our Senate and our House vote. It's often um, it's often all the Republicans vote this way and all the Democrats vote that way. Sometimes a Democrat will go over here and sometimes a Republican will go over there, but it doesn't happen too often. And then another AP word that you must know is gridlock. So gridlock means everything locks up, it shuts down. And gridlock often happens because both sides won't budge. We are not a compromising type of government. And because about half of our country is liberal and the other half of the country is conservative, a lot doesn't get done. Checking the time. Looks like we have about 1 minute before we move on to the next class. So I'll pause the video and be back very soon.